She was scammed out of over $500,000 by her soulmate, and she shared this story on TikTok, calling it the Danish Deception. It all started in 2022 when Onyeka Ehi met this tall, charming, I have royal ties Danish guy at a beach club in Croatia. Instant chemistry. He flew her to Monaco, paid for luxury hotels, took her to Saint-Tropez. The whole fairy tale. She fell hard, told him she loved him, he said it back, and then that's when things got dark, because suddenly his millions were tied up, the IRS froze his accounts, and he just needed a small loan. $6,000 turned into tens of thousands, while they were planning a life together, even marriage and a green card. But when she visited his family in Denmark, nothing matched his stories. Then she learned he had a massive gambling addiction and had already borrowed $200,000 from her friend's husband, then money from her friends, even $3,000 from her little sister. Every loan came with a new lie, and when he couldn't lie anymore, he simply asked for a divorce and disappeared. Only after he left did she realize the full scale of the cheating, gambling, manipulation, and the $300,000 hole he left behind. She didn't post his name or picture, but the internet did what the internet does, and they found him.
Girl, listen, I just need somebody to check what star sign the Danish Deception lady is, just so we know, and then we can keep like a very good close eye on our homegirls who are the same sign. But one thing I know for sure is that she's not an earth sign. Because Capricorns, Virgos, Tauruses, no, we're not playing that bullshit.
Here's the viral Danish Deception story that everyone's talking about, summed up in 2 minutes. So former Bachelor contestant Onyeka has dropped a 27-part TikTok series exposing how her husband scammed her and their loved ones out of over $300,000. Onyeka met him while on holiday in Croatia and they clicked instantly. They were inseparable. He was tall, handsome and charming, and he was rich. He had a job as a CEO earning over $400,000. The only problem she saw is that he is from Denmark and she lives in the USA. When she returned home to the US, they quickly fell into an intense long-distance relationship. He starts flying her out all over the world to see him, Saint-Tropez, Cannes, and he's giving her lavish gifts. They are obsessed with each other, they're in love, and they get married very quickly so he can start the process of moving to the US. But then it all starts going wrong and the money requests start rolling in. He tells her that an apartment complex he's invested in Denmark urgently needs repairs, and so she sends him $6,000. Then he tells her that all of his available money, around $300,000, has been temporarily frozen by the IRS or Danish authorities so they can conduct a tax investigation. So he's now saying he has pretty much no access to any money. So at this point she's now paying for everything, flights, hotels and constant trips, because remember they're still long distance. And he starts needing money for more and more emergencies. She sends him another $5,000 after there's a fire in the apartment complex. Then he tells her he's $300,000 in tax debt. She sends him $15,000 to help clear the debt. Then he asks her for another $3,000 to help out a friend. And these requests just keep coming until he owes her thousands of dollars. But then she finally learns the truth of where all the money's been going. It turns out he has a severe gambling addiction. These apartments he owns, they don't exist. And she finds out that he actually scammed his own friend out of $200,000. He also owes her mum $10,000 and is forging documents to make it look like he's going to pay the money back. He isn't. And he's taken $3,000 off of her sister. So after finding all of this out, you think she's gonna leave him. Wrong. He actually decides that he's gonna leave her. He demands a divorce and says he's disappearing back to Denmark and that she'll never see him again. After he left, she discovered that he'd been dating and scamming multiple other women. She's now telling her story on TikTok to millions of people, and she's building a case to try and have him prosecuted.
So you met him in February, and in March he needed money?
Yes.
Okay. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. That's a bill.
So we've all seen the Danish Deception by now, and I haven't said a word because I make it a point not to speak on or about Black women because it is not my place, right? But her latest video talking about how shocked she is that the Black community is not supporting her, I mean, I just cannot shut up anymore and I have to say something. What you don't understand is that the reason that the Black community is not supporting you is because had this dude been Black, okay, you and your friends that gave him money would never have been in this situation. If this dude were Black, the second that he told you that he was in the Olympics, you would have Googled that shit. The second that he told you that he was royalty, you would have been like, I don't know about that. Let me Google it. The second that you went to his mama's house and it didn't match the home that you expected of a royal person, those would have been huge red flags to you as to, is this guy telling me the truth? If he were Black, you would have done all those things. The reason that you didn't do all those things is because this was a tall white dude that looked like Thor. And you were so enchanted by him and so happy that you had this big white dude in love with you that you didn't want to see the red flag. So miss me with that nonsense that the community that you would have been so prejudiced against had this dude been black all of a sudden is not supporting you. Yeah, they're not going to support you because the reason you're in this situation is because this dude is white and this is what you wanted for your life and this was your dream. Had he been black, you wouldn't be here and you know it.
That motherfucker took $30,000 from me. Keep in mind, he still owes me $6,000 at this point. He said, can you send me $5,000? After some time, he talks me into loaning him the $15,000. I end up loaning him an additional $3K, not even a week after I had already given him $15K. I remember I gave him like a small amount, maybe like $3,000. We ended up going to Portugal for a week. We used my credit cards the majority of this trip. Your ex owes my husband $200,000. And I saw that there was a cash advance for $7,000. My little sister looks at me and she says, he took $3K from me. I find another friend that he owed $10,000 to. My coworkers that I used to work with, husband gave him $10,000 to. And what was in his account? 34 cents.
Will you believe me if I told you a woman gave a man over $30,000 of her own money, paid $318,000. He claimed he owed the IRS and watched him take $300,000 in cryptocurrency from a friend, all while he claimed to be a Danish royal and former Olympian. It all started in 2022. Onyeka Ehi met a tall, charming man at a beach club in Croatia. He claimed royal ties, and the chemistry was instant. He flew her to Monaco, booked luxury hotels, took her to Saint-Tropez, a real-life fairy tale. Then the deception began. He said his millions were frozen by the IRS. He asked for a small loan. $6,000 became tens of thousands. He talked about marriage, a green card, a future together, but every promise hid a lie.
About $300,000 is how much Bachelor Anam Onyeka is saying that she, her family, her closest friends, and even a colleague were all scammed out of by one man. Man she once believed was her soulmate. His name? Martin Forsgaard Anderson. A charming blonde 6'3" real estate mogul who claimed he had royal ties, a booming tech business, and wealth that would one day be theirs to share. Instead, Onyeka was left with years of trauma and coming to TikTok to tell her story, which she calls the Danish Deception. It's a 26-part story, which she says began in June of 2022 when she decided to take a trip with her friend to Croatia. It was at a beach club when she noticed Martin immediately, and that was when he decided to approach her. He was confident, their chemistry was magnetic, and there was an instant spark. They exchanged social media, and she saw him one more time before returning to the US, but it wasn't the last time she heard from him. He messaged her constantly, invited her to come party with him in Ibiza, and then eventually convinced her to join him for a work trip in Monaco. After a month of talking over the phone, she agreed and he flew her out, paid for the hotel and her flight. In Monaco, he was everything he had promised, charismatic, adored, and effortlessly networking in real estate circles. After that, he whisked her to Saint-Tropez, paid for a $2,000 a night hotel, and offered to buy her whatever she wanted. She said she never wanted him to think that she was only there for his money, so she didn't let him buy her all these extravagant gifts. Instead, she opted for a $200 sunglasses. She fell hard for the first time in her life, telling him over a loud dinner that she was in love with him. 2 nights later, she collapses in a restaurant on the way to the bathroom and is eventually taken to the hospital, to which at that point he tells her he's falling in love with her too. Back home, the romance intensifies. He meets her friends, her family, and he fits right in. He flies to see her often, and then money requests begin. There are so many details to this story, but at some point he convinces her that he's buying properties, his money is tied up, that the IRS has a hold on not only his personal, but his business account. He lent him $6,000, then more and more. All while planning a life together in the US, they get married, he's applying for a visa, and eventually gets a green card. At this point, the cracks are forming. She's visiting his family in Denmark, and things aren't matching what he's telling her. After getting married, she finds out from his friend that he has a severe gambling addiction, one that he's been battling for over a decade. Later finds out that he had borrowed $200,000 from her friend's husband that he hadn't paid back. Relationship is going up and down. He convinces her that that's in the past, and later she finds out that he has been borrowing money from a lot of people in her life. Tens of thousands of dollars from one person to another, $3,000 from her little sister. Every loan came with its own set of lies. Every time she would confront him, there were so many excuses until one day he had no excuse left to give, and so he asked for a divorce. Only when he left did she realize the magnitude of it all, from exes to cheating to gambling to lies to manipulation. He is now sharing her story, and while she did not give his name or his photos, the internet did its thing, and I decided to share it as well because people need to know about this man. There's of course so much more that I left out, and I highly recommend watching this 26